Do you remember last week, a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you about the Inga Grand Dam project? Yes, a massive, gigantic energy project that we're looking at in the continent that is meant to deliver 40 gigawatts of energy, right? That was quite massive. But did you know that actually this project is part of an even bigger program, and actually that the African continent is running towards? Yes, I'm talking about Agenda 2063. I don't know how much you've heard about it, because today what I want to do is actually to embark on a journey to explore African vision for the future, through the Agenda 2063. I want to uncover the key pillars, of this transformative framework and its implication also for the continent development. And more specifically, I want to understand what role energy infrastructure is playing into this agenda and how relevant is the green transition, is the green energy is in order to develop independence for the continent of Africa. So this is what we're going to be unfolding in this conversation. So stay tuned. Hello, everybody. So my name is Tony Chu. So I'm the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa. What we do is very simple. We raise awareness about renewables energy in Africa and also across the globe. Now, if you are a project developer, if you are an EPC, if you are a supplier or an investor, and you're looking to invest into the continent of Africa, well, I would definitely say do reach out to us, because I want to show you how you can 10x your return on investment. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Yeah, excellent. So now let me come back to the topic of today. So as I told you, so I talked about the Agenda 363, but before that, a couple of weeks ago, so I talked about the Grand Dam project that was in Congo, right? If you remember something about that, and Agenda 2063 is definitely part of it. Now, the reason I want to talk about that is because this is by far the blueprint that the African Union is actually following to take the continent to a next phase, right? And we're going to be looking at discovering what it's all about. Yeah. So we want to look at the core of the agenda. What is it exactly? So what is the overarching goal for Africa future? And we also want to explore a little bit, the aim, to drive economic growth, but also promote social inclusions and also foster sustainable development across the continent. So that's what we're going to do. So if you have some questions, definitely please do let me know. So drop it in the comment box, and it'll be a pleasure for me to discuss that. But before we actually dive into that, yeah, because I'm just going to come back and show you maybe a short video in a minute or two where you get some more information about this program. So first of all, I'm sure a lot of you be asking, what is Agenda 2063? Because one of the things that I realize is there are a lot of programs that are running like that, driving the continent forward, but we're not always aware, or in fact, the general public or maybe some even key stakeholders don't know about it. And for me, I can definitely say that because I was talking to those uh, investors, potential investors for the continent. So this is a European company looking to tap into the continent, and we're working with them to obviously give them more visibility than we normally do, and obviously take them to the target audience and have them to grow into the sector. And I was telling them about Agenda 2063, and they were, let's say, pleasantly surprised to see that at a higher level of the African continent, there's definitely a program, right? There is a vision to drive the continent into a specific place, yeah? And they were actually quite happy to see that, because they were saying that most of the time this is not how they think or see the continent, and they were not even basically aware of the fact that some of these programs have an even longer time frame. That's what you could potentially see in Europe, right? That's just a very quick tangent. So, what is the Agenda 2063? Because I want to tell you what it is, so that if you have an interest into the continent, you're looking at that, you could be informed. Or even if you're already an African, or maybe from a diaspora or living in the continent, it's good for you to know. Why? Simply because the Agenda 2053, it's Africa blueprint. And this is the big master plan, yes, for transforming Africa into a global powerhouse for the future. So as we're looking at all the different programs running concurrently, all of it should, as it should, yeah, should be actually finding a space and a place within the Agenda 2063. And you need to know about that. And why do you still need to know about that? Because, as an African or as a stakeholder, if you want to hold people accountable, especially people, your leaders from the African Union, you need to know what is the main agenda that's driving them, that they've all obviously ratified and working toward. And just ask them, what is the deliverable? Where are we in comparison to what we're saying? So the Agenda 2063 is this master plan. So it's definitely the continent strategic framework, that aims to deliver on inclusiveness, but also sustainable development. Very, very important. I'll come back to that in a minute. In another form, what we're doing here, it's a concrete manifestation of the Pan-African drive for things like unity, self-determination, freedom, progress, and collective prosperity. Yes, that is actually what it's looking to deliver here. And when you look at the genesis of the 2063, so it's also important to understand, where does it come from? Because if I understand where it comes from, I get a better idea where I'm going, yeah, and what is the aim here to achieve. So the genesis for the Agenda 2063 is the realization by African leaders now that there was kind of a need to refocus and also reprioritize, the agenda of the continent, from the struggle against apartheid. So you all remember what the apartheid regime was. Clearly not something that we want to see repeating, and also the attainment of political independence. And sometimes a lot of our citizens, are asking whether that political independence is translated into economic independence, social independence. These are questions. So the idea was to refocus the continent away from apartheid, away from this attainment of political independence, which was actually ahead of what we're talking about here. It was the focus of the precursor of the African Union, which was called at the time the Organization of African Unity. When the African Union came together, the idea was to have a new agenda, a new roadmap driving the continent forward, and instead, prioritizing inclusive social and economic development, a continental but also regional integration, that is favoring things like democratic governance, peace and security against our issues, and kind of repositioning the continent to become a dominant player, right? Because that's all what we are working toward, and this is all what we want to see. And I'm sure as I'm talking about that like that, that's something that look great. It's definitely something I'm sure a lot of you will subscribe to this idea. They will want to see that happening. Yeah. But one thing that is key to get to this level is definitely looking at what is the role that infrastructure, but also energy is playing into that. And what I want to show you in here, it's a specific program. So within the Agenda 2063, which is looking at that, it's called PIDA, which is a program for infrastructure development in Africa. Yeah, we got to focus our attention into that and looking at what role it plays in advancing the infrastructure landscape and how it aligns with the objective of the Agenda 2063. So what I would do just right now, so hopefully things work, I believe they would work. So it's just gonna show you here a video. Let me just bring the video up here. Okay, the video is here. I'm just gonna play that. Obviously, this is just an extract, right? So of the video. So talking about the PIDA, and then I'll come back to you after that.
The rapid and concerted rollout of groundbreaking initiatives across the continent to improve road and rail networks and access to electricity through renewable resources are examples that speak to the heart of the African Union's Agenda 2063. The Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa is a continental framework of Agenda 2063 that aims to address the infrastructure deficits that have hampered Africa's competitiveness in the world market. PIDA aims to deliver on its vision for Africa by focusing on 4 key areas: water, transport, information and communication technology, and energy. In relation to energy, the goal is to develop efficient, reliable, affordable, and environmentally friendly energy networks through development of clean power generation and transmission, high-capacity oil and gas pipelines, and development of renewable energy resources. Furthermore, PIDA will promote and enhance integrated water resource management through development of transboundary waterways and strengthening institutional cooperation for efficient management of shared water resources. PIDA also aims to build a transportation service that will promote movement of people, goods and services through development of a modern African regional transport infrastructure network of roads, railways, ports and air transport services. Moreover, PIDA aims to ensure Africans have access to reliable and affordable ICT through rollout of affordable broadband, increasing access and security of internet services, and promotion of intra-African e-commerce. With over 400+ projects across the continent, the African Union's Development Agency, NEPAD, is responsible for the implementation of the Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa.
So our role is really to coordinate and facilitate with project owners through the regional economic communities so that these projects can be accelerated and construction can commence. We've done a lot on the generation capacity, but now we really thinking through as to how to integrate the entire continent in terms of looking at the existing power pools. There are 5 power pools, but the thinking now is to design a system that will allow all these 5 power pools to be integrated. That has a number of implications, which means that if you look at the cost of energy, it's as low as 4 kilowatt cents an hour in one particular country and as high as 72 cents per kilowatt hour in another country. But it gives you an idea of the disparity and what will Africa become if we were to have one unified integrated transmission power pool, wherein we will be able to really calculate the actual cost of electricity.
We have member states in Africa which are energy poor. Energy poverty in Africa is rampant compared to the situation in other parts of the world. It's much easier to buy power, to import power, than to generate it locally. Because again, energy generation depends on the energy source. If you don't have waterfalls, if you don't have natural resources that generate energy, you have no choice but to import the energy. And that is the reason we have energy power pools, all over Africa, to try and make energy a good that can be exported and imported. If I produce more than I need, then I should be able to sell the extra to my neighbor. The uptake of renewable energy generation is moving faster than elsewhere in the world. And the good thing is Africa is endowed with renewable energy sources, probably much more than you can find in any other place in the world.
The actual cost of energy is the single most important element dictating our future energy output and consumption, with hydropower on the continent being one of the most cost-effective energy resources.
One of the biggest advantages of developing hydropower is that the cost of production per kilowatt is much lower than the cost of all the other renewable energy sources. Solar, wind power, biogas, mention them. Hydropower so far is the lowest. The other advantage mainly is that most of the hydropower, we're talking about power that we generate from running water. So the running water, unless you have affected it environmentally and the rivers run dry, is always replenished by itself. So that's one of the biggest advantage over the other sources of power.
Take the Grand Inga hydropower project. With an earmarked location 225 kilometers from Kinshasa and 60 kilometers upstream from the mouth of the Congo into the Atlantic Ocean, the Grand Inga Dam scheme is intended to have a generation capacity of a massive 40,000 megawatts. The transformation for the potential of the Congo region and beyond are immense.
I mean, the Grand Inga Dam has a huge potential to really bring down the cost of energy on the African continent. If you also juxtapose the Batoka Gorge, these two projects alone will drastically reduce the cost of energy because of where it's situated and its potential to really transform the countries around where it's situated, and not to mention the quantities of kilowatt energy that will be added into the grid. So the Grand Inga as an energy project, it's a very significant project because, as you can recall, it's one of the 12 projects of Agenda 2063. So it's one of those priority projects juxtaposed with the Continental Free Trade Area, the Single Africa Air Transport Market. So it is a priority for the African continent, and we hope it will be realized very soon.
While Africa does have ample energy resources, more than half of the population of our continent still have no access to electricity. And even amongst those who do, blackouts are common. Meeting our future energy demands has the potential to transform our households and spur development.
Imagine quantum amounts of energy. Just imagine that. Having access to 24 hours of affordable and available electricity can change the game, because very quickly we'll be talking about light manufacturing. Very quickly, in terms of SMMEs that are involved in the agricultural value chain, we'll be able to move into value addition. We talk about canneries and tanneries and preserving agricultural produce for accessing the market in another area or another town or another city.
Energy is very important for the development of the continent. There are 600 million Africans who still need access to electricity. So for that, we are focusing on renewable energy particularly, given the huge potential we're having across the continent. So India is a mega project that's being developed, and we are working with the studies and the different policies and the legal framework. But we also have several other initiatives across the continent. We do have the geothermal energy that we are financing, and we are supporting countries of East Africa. We are working for the remote areas, because we don't want the remote areas or the small villages to be left behind, so the mini grids and the off-grid solutions, but also the transmission of electricity across border. And for the transmission to cross border, there are two aspects: the physical aspect, and that's through Nepal, but also the harmonization of policies and regulations, which we're doing at the African Union for the electricity and for the energy sector, which is very important. As soon as you cross border, you have to make sure that all the standards, policies, tariffications are harmonized.
Africa is already not short of infrastructure progress, with a major restructuring of the rail and road corridors already underway.
So we've got a pretty
Okay, I think I wanted just to share these videos with you. Let me just take it off there. So I think they give you a good overview, good broad overview of what's happening with regard to infrastructure and for Agenda 2063. So as you can see, it's really pivotal. It's very, very important to have those projects running, because without energy, there's nothing that could be done. So this agenda, as beautiful as it is, can't be realized. So it's very, very important. And the key part is for me here is, as we talked about energy, so we need to clearly be deciding, so which energy are we going to go for? Yes, we all know about the energy mix that we need to achieve. We all know that we can't be asking, just like tomorrow, for the continent to be, let's say, completely avoiding the fossil fuel that has been used, because there's also abundance of fossil fuel gas, more specifically in the continent. Yes, but what is the proportion of green energy that's want to be included in Agenda 2063? So as you could see, there is a lot of focus, from the African Union, especially the NEPAD, in investing in those resources, and it's something that's definitely welcoming, right? So we believe that that is the right way to go. Now, and with respect to what is actually said, with now what is actually happening, this is where sometimes I have a little bit of how can I say that, of problem, put it that way, because unfortunately it doesn't always translate into some of the, or at least some of the reality that we talked about here, because you probably will see we're talking about the flagship, because a good idea to understand what are just the focus that is put in on project that we believe are transformational for the continent. So an idea to look at that is actually the flagship project, yeah, that the agenda will be developing, right? Because I also say that they having the right, let's say, thinking here, the right approach, the right framework. Now, does it translate into the effort that they're deploying? Yeah. So, and this is where I probably want to share a little bit again. These, uh, let me just say, I believe that I'm sharing the right file. Yeah. So that is the right. Am I sharing the right? One second. So I just want to see, if, confirm that I'm sharing the right page with you. Give me a second. Ah, yeah, that's it. That's what I'm saying. So, what we're looking at here, it's the flagship project for Agenda 2063. Just want to say, where is the focus then be going? And I could see here high speed train network absolutely needed. Formulation of commodities is needed, absolutely. So the Africa free continental trade, yeah, we heard about that. So essentially, I'm not going to mention all of them, but what you will see, as the video was saying, they've actually 12 projects that have been so highlighted at flagship project, and the one that is specifically talking about the energy here, as far as I know, is the implementation of the Grand Inga Dam. So you can understand now why it was so important for me to talk to you about this project, because that's definitely considered one of the flagship major program to transform the energy situation into the continent. But this is also where I have a little problem. If we're saying that energy is going to be paramount to deliver the agenda, so I personally have yet to see a much more detailed plan that's talking about a series of projects. Because Grand Dam, Groningen Dam, yes, yeah, it's been. If you actually watch of my video, you will see that it's something that has been planned for the last 2 3 decades, if not more than that. Yeah. So, but it has yet to come into fruition. So, what are we doing in between? Yeah. Are we still going to just rely on that Grand Inga Dam and wait until all the synergies come together for the project to move forward? Or are we going to develop a lot of projects concurrently? So, I am not saying that nothing else is happening. What I'm simply saying here is, if we believe that energy is central to all the realization that we talked about here, because let's put it clear, without energy, nothing, none of it works. Yeah, so that means energy should be treated very specifically, which is the case. But that means as well that in the agenda 2053, we may have a lot more detailed a program for energy. And for me, I was expecting to see more than just one project, because the grinding down, I can even say, it's not even something that is actually happening. Nothing is happening. There's conversation there, but nothing concrete is happening apart from Inga 3 that was done. Sorry, Inga 1 and Inga 2 that has done. Inga 3 is not even been realized. So what is concretely happening for energy for us to be delivering on Agenda 2063? This is a question that we want to be asking ourselves, because we're in 2024, we have about less than 40 years, 4 decades, yeah? So, knowing that a project like Grand Inga, it takes about a decade to be delivered. But we need more than that. We need more, because it's only 40 gigawatts, right? So we need to sort of triple the power capacity that the continent has right now. So we need more. And that is my question. So if we're saying that we're going to deliver, you know, a sustainable energy for Africa, if we say that we want to develop an Africa that is energy independent, if we say that we want to march towards an Africa that is free from fossil fuel one day, so we need a lot more than that. Yeah. So that is what I wanted to share as a conversation so with you. So that is what I want to say regarding Agenda 2063. I'm probably gonna stop in here because I don't want to be longer than that. So my key question to you is, what do you think about Agenda 2063? How can you contribute to that? And also, the reason it's actually very interesting is because I say, for those companies, for those people who want to partner with the continent, who want to step into the continent, exploit the opportunity, my question for you is very simple. Do you know enough about Agenda 2063? How can you position yourself to be talking this language? How are you engaging with the right lawmakers, the right diplomat in order to bring your solution? But first of all, before you even do that, you want to make sure that all these people know about you, and that's where we can actually help you. We can definitely help you to be more visible and to connect with this target audience. So if you're interested by the continent, if you're interested to know about the Agenda 2063 because you have something you want to offer to the continent, why don't you reach out to us? Yeah? That's what I want to do. Definitely drop me a message in the comments or reach out to me in various way. I'll be more than happy to talk to you a little more. So that's all I had to say for today. So Agenda 2063. So definitely a great vision to transform the continent, to take us to a different place where Africa is considered a major powerhouse. But is it the agenda at the moment that is delivering the continent on fossil fuel, making us energy independent? I would like to say the vision is there, but the action still need to be better improved. That's what I have to say for today. So I'm looking forward to see you next time, guys. But don't forget tomorrow, one day, one concept, where we're going to be looking at another topic again. Have a great weekend, and I see you next time. Bye bye, guys.